No, you're going to clean it up. I want to talk to you about the Epstein case. I have worked on this for years, trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build this international human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier I urged then Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records, and I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. They stonewalled on this. And I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American...
Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Patel, there is absolutely no doubt that you have the experience and the expertise to lead the FBI, and we welcome you here today. We are pleased that you are here. I've been listening to my colleagues across the dais and listening to their questions, and it has led me to one thing. Why are the Democrats so afraid of you?
I don't know, Senator. You'd have to ask them.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. And listening to their questions and your responses, which we appreciate, they know that you're going to go in and you're going to clean up that political cabal that has been over there for years. You are going to reposition the FBI to its core mission. You stated that earlier in this hearing, and there will be no more political persecutions and no more two tiers of justice. And they have liked having two tiers of justice. They have enjoyed it, and it has helped them, they think, in their political mission. They've enjoyed targeting Catholics. They've enjoyed targeting parents. But the American people have said they want no more of that. And our colleagues know you're going to clean it up. I want to talk to you about the Epstein case. I have worked on this for years, trying to get those records of who flew on Epstein's plane and who helped him build this international human trafficking, sex trafficking ring. Now, earlier I urged then Chairman Durbin to subpoena those records, and I ended up being blocked by Senator Durbin and Christopher Wray. They stonewalled on this, and I know that breaking up these trafficking rings is important to President Trump. So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we are going to countermand missing children and exploited children going forward.
Thank you for that. I do want to touch on the political persecution. I find it so interesting that they feel like you would carry out political persecution. Your parents are with us today. They fled Uganda and persecution from Idi Amin. And I think that with your background and given your family's history, that you would never move to political persecution. Is that accurate?
Yes, Senator, that is.
And we appreciate that you would remove any kind of two tiers of justice from the FBI because they have practiced that every day for years. Not all FBI agents. There are some good ones, and we certainly want to keep them, but the politics has got to be moved out of the agency. Now, they've tried to frame you as being anti-police. We've discussed that some today. And I know that you grew up working with NYPD officers in your community. And I know that law enforcement groups, including the National Association of Police Organizations, have endorsed your nomination. And on top of that, your brother is a law enforcement officer. Is that accurate?
Many of my family are, yes, Senator.
How many of your family, sir?
Well, I guess the Indians have a different definition of family. We got a really big one, and they're all family.
We all love big families.
So we got a lot.
I appreciate that. But it is accurate to say that in your role, you're going to do everything that you possibly can to protect the men and women who are protecting our communities.
That is of the utmost importance.
Thank you. I want to go to the Nunes memo. You were the principal author of the Nunes memo. Is that accurate?
Yes, me and staff.
Thank you. And that did really so much to focus the light on the Russiagate hoax and the political cabal that was for years operated out of the DOJ and the FBI. And I know that there are some that felt like that memo was not accurate. we know now differently. And I'm quoting a comment that was made about that memo and by a member of that House Intel Committee, and I quote, "It was meant only to give Republican House members a distorted view of the FBI," end quote. I find it so interesting. They use the term distorted view. I think the American people who for 4 years under Biden saw the FBI weaponized against them, against parents, against people of faith, weaponized against President Trump. I think they would disagree with that. Do you stand by the good work that you did on the Nunes memo?
Our team, and yes, absolutely.
And the Nunes memo was accurate in its description of the details, correct?
As confirmed by the Inspector General, the Special Counsel, because the Nunes memo only contained sworn information received pursuant to transcribed interviews and production of government materials, including FBI 302s and DOJ memorandum.
So the Nunes memo is accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that. In your new role as director, how will you work to root out 2 tiers of justice at the FBI?
The same way I have always done so, ma'am, with the utmost fidelity to the Constitution and integrity to law enforcement. Government must allow those who are privileged to serve to execute their law enforcement duties fully, but at the same time, the American people deserve accountability inwards to government, to any of those who violate that sacred trust.
And as you prepare to take this new role, what are the top areas of concern for you as we look at our national security?
The top areas when it comes to national security, ma'am, have remained unchanged, and the threat dynamic has increased. It's thwarting terrorist activities and terrorist attacks here and overseas against our citizens and our allies, and it also includes CCP espionage, which is running rampant these last 5 years through our country, including our cyber infrastructure and our agricultural properties, and it also includes taking on Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, and any other adversary that wishes to harm America.
Thank you. I look forward to a yes vote on your confirmation.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Padilla.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes.
Since the senator from Tennessee.
As the last words of Senator Marsha Blackburn fade beneath the quiet hum of the Senate chamber, a moment of uneasy stillness settles over the hearing room, the kind of silence that follows truth spoken too plainly for comfort. Her voice, sharp and deliberate, cuts through the decorum. "I want to talk to you about the Epstein case." The phrase lands with a weight that no one in Washington can ignore. Behind those few words lie decades of questions about power, privilege, and the systems that protect the untouchable. Across the table, Kash Patel sits composed, the embodiment of confidence and control. A man molded by national security and battle-tested in the fog of political warfare. His promise is simple, yet seismic. Transparency, accountability, justice without exception. For a nation exhausted by headlines of corruption and hypocrisy, that vow rings like a distant echo of what the FBI once stood for, and what it could be again. But this moment is about more than one nominee or one senator. It's about the collision between 2 Americas, one that demands answers, and another that buries them under bureaucracy and silence. Blackburn's words, charged with both defiance and faith, pierce through the polished veneer of political civility. She calls out those who, she claims, stonewalled efforts to expose Epstein's network, naming Senators Durbin and Coons as obstacles to the release of records the public has long been denied. It's a rare instance when the Senate floor becomes a stage for moral confrontation, not just partisan theater. The mention of Epstein, even now, carries the tremor of unfinished reckoning. His crimes were not committed in isolation. They were enabled, ignored, and protected. Planes filled with names, logs filled with secrets, and yet no full accounting. When Blackburn asks Patel if he will work to uncover the truth, his reply, "Absolutely, Senator," becomes a moment of clarity amid years of obfuscation. For survivors, for citizens, for anyone who still believes in equal justice under law, those 2 words hold more than procedural promise. They hold moral gravity. And yet, beyond the surface of this exchange lies something deeper, a question about what justice really means in a system that has too often served power instead of the people. Blackburn's insistence that there are 2 tiers of justice speaks to a wound that runs through the heart of American democracy. It's not just rhetoric, it's a mirror. For every ordinary citizen punished without mercy, there are elites who walk free, shielded by influence and proximity to power. The Epstein scandal remains one of the most haunting symbols of that imbalance, a grotesque intersection of wealth, exploitation, and silence. When Patel speaks of his parents fleeing Uganda's dictatorship under Idi Amin, the hearing turns unexpectedly human. The immigrant son of survivors of persecution, now entrusted with overseeing an agency accused of its own abuses, There's poetry in that paradox, the promise that someone who understands tyranny firsthand might be the one to restore fairness to an institution lost in political fog. His affirmation that he would never move to political persecution isn't just a reassurance, it's a moral oath drawn from a life that has already seen what happens when justice is weaponized. As Blackburn turns to the Nunes memo, that controversial document that once divided Washington, the hearing becomes less about policy and more about narrative. She frames it as the first real attempt to expose a political cabal inside the Department of Justice and the FBI. Her language is pointed, her tone unwavering. Whether one agrees or not, the subtext is unmistakable. There are those in power who fear accountability and those who refuse to stop demanding it. Patel's calm confirmation that the Nunes memo was accurate feels almost defiant in its simplicity. To his supporters, it is vindication. To his critics, provocation. But in that exchange lies a fundamental question: who decides what truth is, and what happens when truth threatens those who hold it? The American experiment depends on institutions built to serve the people, not the party. When those institutions falter, the people must be reminded that oversight is not optional. It is the beating heart of democracy. As the gavel echoes and the hearing draws to a close, the camera pans across faces, some resolved, some uneasy, some unreadable. The air hums with the tension of unspoken realities. In these ornate rooms where power dresses itself in formality, history is written not in shouts, but in the quiet determination of those who refuse to look away. The Epstein files, the allegations of bias, the vows of reform, they all converge into one question that hovers over this moment. Can America still hold its leaders accountable? Because justice, real justice, isn't partisan. It isn't selective. It doesn't bend to convenience or concealment. It demands sunlight, even when that light exposes the ugliest truths. And if the Epstein case taught us anything, it's that the price of silence is measured in human lives and moral decay. Every stone unturned, every record withheld, is another betrayal of the public trust. Tonight, as the lights dim in that Senate chamber, the echoes of this hearing will linger, not because of political theater, but because of the fundamental promise it reminds us of, that truth must outlive corruption, that every name matters, that no one, no matter how powerful, should be above the law. And so, the story continues, beyond these walls, beyond this nomination, into the conscience of a nation still wrestling with its reflection. The questions raised here will not vanish. They will follow those who heard them, echoing in press rooms, in living rooms, in every space where Americans dare to demand answers. Because the pursuit of justice is not a headline. It is a calling. And in a time when the truth itself feels endangered, the only defense left is awareness, the courage to listen, to question, to act. This is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of accountability. Subscribe to Liberal Country. Stand with those who seek the truth, and never stop asking who benefits when silence wins.